Welcome, everybody. I'm so glad that you could attend this session virtually. Old school strategies, new school tools. I am your facilitator, Mr. Wilkie V. Law III. Let me first give a disclaimer. I do not claim to know everything that there is to know about the old school strategies nor the new school tools. However, I'm just coming to give you just a sneak peek into my world of how I took what I already knew and had to transformed it in order to make it work for my students. So, a little bit about me. Originally from Houston, Texas, born and raised Houston, Texas. I was a product of HISD. Went to Cashmere Senior High School. In this video here, me in the pictures, you see my family. You see me as a youngster. That picture with me sitting on my mom's lap, I was actually in the sixth grade in that picture, which is kind of interesting because I teach sixth grade math, and that was what I would consider to be my most tumultuous times growing up. I did drop out of school when I was in the sixth grade. Parents divorced. I went through a spell where I was depressed and I was going through a lot of things. I had a mom who was very strong, who not only encouraged me to get back in school, but she actually forced me to get back in school. So um, I'm just very excited that she made that decision because I wouldn't be who I am today if it was not for her nor my father. Um, who am I by the numbers? Well, I'll put some numbers up here. I'm a math teacher, so you can see there I'm the third. You saw in the picture, you saw my grandfather, myself, and my dad. But the 14, what does that represent? Well, 14 is represents the number of years I've been teaching. Began teaching back in 2006, 7, 2006, 2007 school year. I started out as a instructional aide working at the ninth grade center in Aldine Independent School District, where I've served my entire 14-year career. Um, 26 represents the number of years that I've actually known my wife. My wife and I met in college. She became my best friend, and to this day, she still holds that title. Uh, Next, you see the eight. The eight is the number of years we've been married. I know you may be looking 26, 8, what happened? Well, it took that long for me to convince her to marry me. But nonetheless, she is my best friend, my soulmate, and she's also another educator. So she's a co-laborer in what we're doing in education. The one represents the number of children I have. I have one daughter, and my daughter is getting ready to go to high school. She'll be a freshman next year. And the two represents the number of dogs we have. I am an avid pit bull lover. I love the American Pit Bull Terrier. It's something about the fact that they're misunderstood, just like I am most of the time. The fact that they love unconditionally, just like I do. Just like they are loyal, just like I am. I love my dogs. I'm an for the breed, advocate for the breed, and I love them. The four represents the number of siblings I have. I have an older brother and three sisters. Um, I am the fourth of five. What is the purpose of this session today? Well, the purpose of this session today is to share how a seasoned educator, and I'm going to use that word seasoned, because of the fact that I have been teaching for 14 years. And typically, when you've been teaching for any number of years, they tell you after 5 to 7 years, you start to get kind of stagnant and you start to kind of go on autoplay. But I'm going to share with you how a seasoned educator adapted the use of new technology without losing the tried and true strategies of teaching mathematics. Again, I love teaching. So that is the purpose. So sit back, relax, get your notepads out, and let's make sure that we have good discourse. If you have questions, I have my email up at first. I'll put it up on the last slide so that if you have questions, concerns, you want to know more about it, one of the apps that we talk about, it's going to be an overview. So it's not going to be me going in depth, but I'm just going to share with you some of the tools that we use and some of the methods that I use in getting my students to connect with the mathematics in a different way. All right. So let's talk old school. So first off, I know we're familiar with these two books, Fred Jones' Tools for Teaching. I know I have one in my classroom. How to Be an Effective Teacher, The First Days of School, Harry Wong. Uh, I have that book as well. So we know these books, these are some tried and true. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with them. These are still tools that are very valid. COVID-19 has taught us something different though, because while we're going through this, we have to look and see, how do I make this look right in a digital age? And so we want to look and explore how these old school strategies that we've known, grown up knowing, that we may have experienced in our own teaching, in our own learning and our own teaching, and how we can make that work for our students. Some more old schools. These are research based. I got this from theclassroomkey.com. 9 research-based teaching strategies and simple teaching strategy goal, the I can statements. I believe in I can statements and I believe statements. I believe that the more we can get students to connect with themselves within the learning process, we expand them to be able to receive what we're trying to give them. They have to be able to say, I can do this. I believe I can do this. And the moment that you connect with them on that level, students begin to open up. Other side, 9 research-based teaching strategies. Start with a review. We know that. We know we always start with that previous knowledge. We're looking to see, what do kids already know? Can I possibly explore something that they've already been connected to that's going to connect it easily to what they're teaching now? Moving over, small steps. Present the material in small steps. When I was in school, we had my Spanish book. The name of the book was Pasa Pasito. That's what was on the cover. And so it's like, little by little, you'll get there. Little by little. It's not going to be a one and done. It's not going to be one big shot that gets it all. One of the old adage that we always hear is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So we can't go on and say we're going to consume the whole thing. We have to break it up into little pieces. So take those small steps. Think aloud. Getting kids to think, talk out what they're thinking. If you can talk about what you're thinking, you can learn to articulate that. These are strategies that we know work. Guided practice, giving students the opportunity. I call it practice without penalty. Students have to be able to have the opportunity to practice what you've taught them, what you're presenting to them, without fear of penalty. Some kids get anxiety when they know I'm being tested, or they get anxiety when they're saying, oh, I know you're watching me, so I don't want to make a mistake. That practice without penalty, that guided practice, is what helps shape the students' learning, because now it gives the students the opportunity to really dive into it without fear that if I make a mistake, I'm going to blow it. State the objective. I cannot stress this enough, that if the students do not know what the objective is that they're going to do, 9 times out of 10, you're going to struggle with getting them to know it. Again, nothing brand new. I said, I'm not a guru. I'm just helping you see how we can put these strategies and these practices into the new formats that's moving forward. Graphic organizers. I love graphic organizers. It helps kids piece things together. Does it work for every kid? Does every kid need them? No. But as an organizational tool, it is something that helps them to visualize what's happening in the concepts. Concept sort, being able to put things into their proper place. I think of that like a puzzle piece, a jigsaw. You're putting things together and you're sorting things based on, when you start a puzzle, you put it's an ocean. You're going to put all the blue things together. You're going to put all the light blues and dark blues in one separate pile. You're going to put all the whites in a separate pile, because you know that those are the things that are going to go together. So getting things sorted out. Checking for understanding is huge. We can't just teach. We have to stop, back up, and check, did they really get it? And providing feedback. This is the biggest part. And we're going to dive into this earlier, because this was probably one of the biggest challenges that I faced with in adopting the new school tools, was providing feedback. And I'm going to show you some tools that I use in my classroom that maybe your district used and you didn't know had those features. And we'll talk about that and how we can jump into that and get into that later. Um, so again, these are all old school strategies from from the Fred Jones to the Harry Wongs to these teaching strategies that we're looking at. There's all of these things are still valid. Proximity. I love being able to be in the classroom and teaching where if you see a student that's not paying attention, instead of calling them out, bringing embarrassment to them, maybe just going and standing next to them and placing your hand on their desk so they can understand that you are there and you understand that they're not paying attention. Maybe a simple just going by and tapping on their desk and pointing them to where they should be. Um, it could be simply asking them a question. Hey, is your pencil broken? Do you need me to sharpen your pencil? Um, so those things are so critical and so important in what we're trying to do, especially moving into this new era of teaching. So these are old school strategies. So what are some new school tools? Now I took the liberty of just kind of putting some out here. Uh, Number one, we use in our district Clever. I love Clever as a management tool for everything that our kids do. And so I'll go ahead and click here and I'll take you there so that you can actually see what it's like for our student. It gives the students this dashboard. So when the students log in, they can go in here and they can see a dashboard of all the different things that we're going to do and we're going to be using in the classroom. So with this makes students have to log in one time to one app and gives them access to everything we use in our classroom. I love it. I love it. I love it. It makes so much sense for the students. It makes so much sense for the teachers because I use it because there are some things that I may forget about and I can go back in here and I can say, hey, I want to find this. They have a library of other apps that you can use. Clever. It is a holding tool for us to be able to use the information that our students, the tools that we use in the classroom and house them in one place so the students can log in one time and it gets them access to all of their resources that they can do. And it's not just math. Again, you see over here to the side, they have reading. There's forms for literacy. There's digital games. There's things in here for science and social studies. It's not just for math. Whatever you're using, you can put it in here and create your own classroom so that you can be able to lead your students to the places that they need to go for what they need for your classroom. New school tool. Old school strategy with this, we have to teach kids how to use the strategies. We can't just assume that because the kids are on their iPhones, they're on their iPads, they're doing these things all day long, that they're going to automatically know how to do it. We have to make sure that we cover our bases, don't make any assumptions. Teach them, show them, walk them through it step by step so they can actually understand what they're doing. All right, the next one, and probably one of my favorites after COVID, is Schoology. Um, the Schoology system is, I mean, and again, I'm not a paid sponsor for any of these sites, but I can say that Schoology is amazing for what it does. Um, so we'll go here. And so when I look here, Schoology gives me a list of things that I can do within my classroom. One of the features that I loved over the thing is that it gives us the ability to conference with our students. So I can literally go in and I can create a conference with my kids and have them meet me in a safe, secure, district sponsored space that I know I can go in and I can meet with my students. It proved to be gold during COVID. Um, Level of engagement. You can still interact with the kids. The kids can raise their hand. They can thumbs up, thumbs down, all those things. You can think pair share. You can place them in groups. You can move them into different rooms. The same things that you would do in the classroom as far as small group lessons and doing different things. Schoology gives you that option. And it also gives you the option to create and plan your lessons so that when students go in, students can actually go in and see every lesson that they're going to be doing. And in my classroom, I called it a hybrid class because my students would get lessons with me for half the class and then lessons that they would do that would come strictly from Schoology. And I will link whatever other app they're using through Schoology, and the kids would just go into Schoology, log into Clever, go into Schoology, and it will give them where they need to go and take them to where they need to be. Amazing app, so much functionality. So again, I just highly recommend that you look into it if your district is not using some type of management system for teaching. I highly recommend Schoology. Um, Flocabulary, I'm sure we're all familiar with Flocabulary at this time. They made some great moves over the break. Now, Flocabulary is integrated with Nearpod, which is another management system, another engagement system. Um, I know a lot of people, as I am right now, I'm using Google Slides while I'm doing this assignment. I could have taken this exact lesson that we're doing right now and put it into a Nearpod and actually been able to go through, and we would have been able to walk through the lesson through Nearpod. So, and it's done the exact same thing, except for instead of just being the information, it would actually give engagement tools. And we'll jump into there and just show an example of what that looks like right now. So some of the tools that you can use in here within Nearpod when you're creating it, here's a vocabulary video that's embedded directly into the Nearpod. So now I can actually go in, the kids can individually do it, or I can do it as a whole group. It's up to you. You can make those decisions on your own. Um, I like to do it whole group for portions of it and then release the rest of the Nearpod for the students to go and complete on their own. I think that guided practice, that walking the kids through, is so important. So in my teacher time, that's what we'll go through portions of it, and then I'll release them to go into the digital part on their own, and then all I have to do is kind of check up on them. Uh, uh, Fortunately for me, I had a co-teach last year who worked with me, so we could kind of split the room and be in different places at the same time, making sure students were engaged. But again, with Nearpod, you can actually see from your main thing whether or not students are engaged. It tells you if the students are on the site or not. So again, I highly recommend Nearpod for the functionality, different things. Again, engagement. Students can now come here and practice what they've learned. Now let's put it together. You've talked about factorization and prime factorization. Now let's put the dots together and see if you can understand and you're just turning tiles. Um, And then independent practice. Now I can give them a quiz. Again, we're talking engagement. We understand that the only way we can get students to learn is to get them engaged. And we have to separate the difference between excitement and engagement. Just because they're excited about a lesson does not mean that they're engaged in the lesson. What you can do to make sure they're engaged is, what are you giving them to do? What are you giving them to put their hands on? What are you giving them to engage their brains and their minds in doing things? So again, we want to make sure we're focusing on that engagement. Again, formative assessments within this same platform. Now here it is. We've gone through some practices. We've gone through some engagements. We've done some push pins. Now here you are, answer these questions on your own. How confident in your ability to identify prime factors of a number? So again, this is checking for understanding. Where are you on that spectrum? I used to do this in my classroom where I would give the kids. I would have red and green markers on the table going out of my room, and I would have the kids just put a check mark as they were walking out the room on a white sticky note. And as they're putting they either put red or green, and I'm watching who's putting the red, who's putting the green, so that I can I get an idea of the scope of who understood the lesson. This is the exact same format. Again, just doing it in a new school way, digitally. All right, so enough about Nearpod, because I could go on all day long about Nearpod. I love Nearpod. Um, I think it's a great way. Google Classroom is another tool that we could use. I don't use it as much right now just because our district went to using the format for Schoology. But again, I have used it in the past and I do use it for my after school program to where I can actually have the kids doing some work in there. So it is a format that a lot of teachers love to use. Unfortunately, I just don't use Google Classroom just because of the functionality that Schoology does the exact same thing. And it just makes more sense to use Schoology. Um, EdPuzzle is another site that I was introduced to about 3 years ago. And I have to say that it has really, really changed how I do things. When I say a hybrid classroom, direct instruction, digital instruction, EdPuzzle gives you that opportunity to actually go in and to create lessons from videos. So you can take your favorite video that you were going to show to your kids in YouTube and actually embed questions into those videos. Or if you're savvy enough, you could be the one, you can create your own videos. I'm working on my videos for next year, this summer, so that next year that the videos that my kids see will be the videos of me. They will hear my voice, my co-teacher's voice, so that now we're bringing it all together and it's not a different voice. And I know that there's going to be a consistency in the content that they're going to get. Um, but just to give you an example, if you're not real familiar with it, this is actually a lesson that one of our teachers put together on credit risk. And he put the video together. And if you notice on this video screen, it shows little dots. So as the kids watch it, each time they get to one of these little blips, they must answer the question. So questions are embedded into the video. And once they're done watching the video, you'll get a score and the kids will get their score and you'll get to know exactly where those kids are in their understanding. So if you need to go back in and reteach, I can know what section I need to reteach. It also gives the students an opportunity to rewatch any segment that they watched before they answer the question. So if I'm not 100% sure that I paid attention on that, then let me pay attention and make sure that I go back to this. More new school tools. Edulastic. Talk about formative assessments. Edulastic really gives you that ability um, to go in and to connect with students, to assess them formatively, and you can build those questions. So in here, I created my classes and I've given it to my students. So you can actually build out your questions for whatever you want the questions to be. And you put them in here. The students actually do it. You can do 4 to 5 questions. Kids they do the formative assessment. You get the results back immediately. You can give them the feedback immediately. And then the students, you can move on or reteach if needed. Apologize for those little glitches. Prodigy is another one that I know my kids love, and I'm sure if you have kids that have been in math any length of time, you'll know that Prodigy is something that kids really, really love. It's a little game that they play, and as they're playing the game, they actually go in and they create little worlds. And within those worlds, they do different things, and they have to actually answer the questions right in order to get enough strength to defeat the enemies or defeat what they're going up against. The kids love it. It's been super duper positive in our classroom. You can tell when the kids get involved in it. Um, and again, the thing that I love about it that it gives you reports for every class that you have. I'm not going to do that now because it'll actually pull up the reports and pull up students' names. But it actually can go in here and you can see the reports of where your kids are struggling. And you can actually see it in real time as they're doing it as well. Another one is quizzes. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but quizzes is amazing tool for engagement. My kids loved it. Um, I would create quizzes. You can see all of these at-home learnings that we did. I kept it going throughout the COVID. Um, and so when you think about it, it's just simply putting simple questions in. The kids, it sets a timer. The kids actually get to go and do it, and they're competing against each other. And so uh, I know for me in mathematics, whenever teach students are competing against each other, they really love to get into it. And it gets a little loud, just like with this other one over here, Kahoot. I know most of us are familiar with Kahoot, but again, that's a new school tool. And so something else that you can use when you're in your classroom. Another one that I learned about 3 years ago is Braining Camp, which is this one here. And so Braining Camp actually offers us the opportunity to have online manipulatives for students to use. And again, as I told you before, when my kids log into the Clever app, this is already there for them. So they can go in and if they need to use algebra tiles, they can. If they need base 10 blocks, they can use them. If they need to use the fraction tiles, geoboards, hundreds things, linking clues, color tiles, whatever it is they need, fraction circles, they can actually go in here and use it. 2-color counters, something we really needed. Number lines, they can go in and use it at any time they want to. And I would tell the kids, if we're doing an assignment and you're on the computer, You have the access to go and do these. And so again, it gives them that opportunity. You don't have to get out the two color counters every single time that kids are doing it. If you know they're struggling with algebra, you can actually bring these two color counters in and teach it to the kids in that fashion and let them see how when you put them together, it creates those zero pairs. So many different things that you can do with it. So again, these two color counters, old school strategies. Doing it digitally, new school tool. Um, and so one of the lessons learned over COVID, and I just want to touch on this before we get out of here, is that digital natives does not equal digital learners. Just because our kids were born with cell phones in their hands, most of our kids that we're teaching now grew up their entire life using cell phones, using iPads, tablets, Chromebooks, using computers. It's amazing to see 2 and 3 year olds who are barely learning how to walk can already memorize their parents' login code to get into their phones. So again, just because they're digital natives doesn't mean that it translates into digital learners. That is our job to turn them into digital learners, just like it is our job as teachers to turn them into lifelong learners. We know that kids learn, but making them lifelong learners and giving them the information that they need and teaching them the tools to articulate that learning is what our jobs is as teachers. And so we can't just automatically assume that just because they're natives that they are digital learners. So again, that was one of the big ahas that I got over the COVID break, is that the level of engagement is going to be different because again, our kids are digital natives, but they don't know how that translates into digital learning. So what are some benefits of using technology and these new school tools in your classroom? It makes learning more fun. It prepares students for the future. It helps students learn at their own pace, and it helps connect with students. Excuse me. It makes learning more fun. If you're not having fun, one of my good friends back in Austin said, if you're not having fun with it, then why are you doing it? And so that's the aspect we want to make it for kids. If you look at back, kids stop. Once we get into testing in third grade, around third grade, we start getting into this mindset that learning has to be different. And we notice the students start becoming disengaged as they get into fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. And then we try to recapture them again in high school. But what if we never stopped making learning fun? What if we kept that same kindergarten energy in sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade? Different environment, same energy. Then maybe our kids would want to come back. But getting our kids prepared for the future is key. We know that jobs are fastly moving to online platforms. Most schools are going to online platforms. I've been in school the last 6 years, and I've been in school strictly online. And so this is the way that everything is going. So we have to make sure we prepare them for the most success in the future. And it helps students learn at their own pace. When I can sit and watch a video and rewatch a video and rewatch a video and rewatch a video, and I do it myself even now when I'm choosing to work on things, it helps our students, it helps any student learn at their own pace and gets them to the point to where they build that confidence and help them to grow within themselves. And the connection with students is key, getting them to connect. If you have questions, you can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. You can listen to and subscribe to our podcast, Value Adds Value, where we speak with teachers from all over the world and help other teachers become the teachers that kids deserve. Um, and we just want to amplify teachers' voice to make sure that teachers understand that you're not alone. Well, you may be in your classroom, you may be inside the four walls, but you're not alone. There are tons of people you can reach out to who are more than willing to help you out and to assist you in doing anything that you want to do. So if you have any questions, you can contact me at Wilkie at theledproject.com. Peace, love, and respect. Hope you all enjoy your summer